Betting on sports can be hard, but hiring Morgan & Morgan is easy. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They have over 100 offices nationwide and more than 1,000 lawyers. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/bestbets or dial #law, pound 529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/bestbets. This is a paid advertisement.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. We are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Love Wednesday's action-packed 3-hour program as always, and every week at this time, the great Sal Paolantonio joins the program from ESPN. Wednesdays with Vito Sun as he is on the Progressive guest line. Sal, Pal, thanks for the time as always. How are you?
Oh, Merry Christmas to everybody at VSiN. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to Follow the Money. Merry Christmas to everybody. So good to be with you this week, week 16 in the National Football League. So much going on.
Back at you, my friend. So the Thursday night game, it's a huge one in the AFC West, and the Chargers are at home to the Broncos. This number opened up 3, Sal. Money on Denver this week has pushed it down to 2.5. What do you make of that move?
Yeah, I'm surprised by the reverse line movement. I really am in this football game because this is an absolute Chargers got to have it game. I realize that Justin Herbert's a little banged up, but they've got to have it, and they are at home. The Broncos are traveling on the road. I know it's not a long way, but you're still traveling. You had a very physical game against the Colts. You escaped in that game because the Colts had 5 turnovers in that game. So, you know, the way the Broncos win these games is defense, turnovers, and then miraculous plays by their quarterback. So I expect that the Chargers, with Harbaugh and his defensive coordinator from Michigan, I expect them to tighten things down and get out of there with a win and cover.
All right, excellent. So what are you hearing on Mahomes? It was supposed to be Wentz. Houston opened the favorite. Now Kansas City laying 3. You mentioned the turnover. They finally covered. They won by 14, but Cleveland turned the ball over 6 times. What do you think of Mahomes and the Chiefs now laying 3 Saturday?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting shift. It tells me that somebody knows something. But the bottom line to me is the Chiefs' defense at home can beat the Texans. The Chiefs' defense is good enough. They have to block Chris Jones, whether or not Patrick Mahomes is out there or not. Carson Wentz is, you know, he's now under the tutelage of Matt Nagy and Andy Reid. He's got much more to work with than he's had in the recent past. But this is a very difficult game to predict because the Chiefs really don't need this game. The game they need is Christmas Day against the Steelers, right? The game they need is Christmas Day. So, you know, discretion sometimes is the better part of valor. And I just don't understand it unless somebody knows something that Mahomes is going to start and he's good enough to go. But I kind of like the Chiefs in this game. I really do.
Yeah, I'm with you. It has not been a fun watch this year with the Houston offense. The defense is absolutely legit. But, Sal, this is
the offense doesn't scare anybody. You're absolutely correct.
No, especially a really good.
And the Chiefs are home, and they've got a good defense with a good defensive coordinator, and the Texans have a young quarterback. And I like the Chiefs all the time. They just find a way to win. Mm-hmm. I can't ever go against the Chiefs. Like, you know, it's funny. I got my newspaper out because, you know, I like to read it, have it in front of me, and I circled in a big fat red Sharpie the word Chiefs. I like the Chiefs in that game. I really do.
Good. So you mentioned their opponent on Christmas Day, the Steelers. I'm looking at the updated injury report from this afternoon, Sal. And yet again today, George Pickens did not practice. TJ Watt actually was limited today. That number is currently Baltimore -6. I got to tell you, if Pickens can't play in this game and if Watt is limited or compromised at all, man, I kind of like Baltimore minus the points. What say you?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I like Baltimore minus the points. I like Baltimore in this game all the time with everything because I just watched the Steelers get absolutely mauled. They got manhandled. It was demoralizing. The Eagles absolutely eviscerated that defense in the second half. And the reason is very simple, because the Steelers without Pickens are playing with basically one arm tied behind their back in the passing game. They really are. And what I saw from the Eagles defense was Quinyon Mitchell up against their best receiver who was out on the field, Austin, and Pratt Freiermuth. They took them away. The Eagles hardly blitzed in that game. They blitzed only 13% of the time, and it's Russell Wilson's dropbacks, and yet they got to Russell Wilson continuously up the middle from the outside. So I think the Ravens defense is good enough to duplicate that game plan, and I agree with you. I like the Ravens a lot in this game. Steelers on the road, and they got to come. The other thing too is the Steelers are probably thinking to themselves, "Listen, we're in the playoffs, right? Right? We're in, and we're probably, we got to go to Kansas City and play the Chiefs, and that's a really tough game for us, a really tough turnaround on Christmas." I think I beat up. I was watching that team on the field and on the sideline in the fourth quarter in the Philadelphia on Sunday night. Gentlemen, they didn't know what was happening to their football team. They rushed for only 46 yards. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll have the same kind of problems that they had last week in Baltimore this week.
You've been singing the praises of Mitchell for months. Great call. He's now the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So what do you think now going on the road? The line seems kind of fishy. Philly 3.5. It was down to 3 in some spots against Washington, and Washington almost blew it against Rattler. What do you think of the Eagles here?
Well, if you remember, go back to the Thursday night games. Commanders were on the road on a short week, and I picked the Eagles to win in that game, and I got lucky because the Commanders put it to them until the fourth quarter. And then once again, the Eagles put their closer on the field, the offensive line and Saquon Barkley, and just demoralized them. It's the same story. The Eagles are outscoring their opponents. Point differential in the fourth quarter is 80 points. 80 points. It's insane. That's the most in the National Football League. But the problem is, and here's the big but, these games late in the year in Washington between the Eagles and Commanders always comes down to a field goal. It just does. Mm-hmm. Always. It comes down to 3 points. Always. One way or the other. It's tough. It's a tough one to predict. But, I'm going to go with the Eagles because of their ability to win in the fourth quarter.
That was so impressive, that drive to close it out.
Oh, boy.
10-minute drive, and it's not the first time they've done that. That was beautiful. Gotta have it game. Late game. Minnesota at Seattle. Geno probably going to play. Vikings 3. Is O'Connell Coach of the Year? Let's start there as well.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Is O'Connell Coach of the Year? Well, listen, he lost his quarterback in training camp, the guy he wanted to start. He brings in Sam Darnold and gives him complete new life, a revelation. So he would definitely get a lot of votes. Dan Campbell, it's been unfortunate what's happened to him because of all the injuries. But, to me, Campbell is sort of the leader going into the clubhouse. But I think that O'Connell's going to get a lot of votes. The guy that I picked early on where you guys scoffed, and you were right, was Nick Sirianni. He was too much of a long shot. Too much has gone on with that football team for him to really be Coach of the Year. But, if they do win the NFC, if they wind up being the number one seed in the NFC, and they wind up having home field throughout, oh, man, I don't see anybody. Who's going to go into Philly and beat the Eagles? The Vikings? I don't know. Steelers? The Lions? I don't know. Either one of those teams can go into Philly and beat the Eagles if the Eagles wind up getting the number one seed. And then you got to give him an extension, right? If Sirianni goes to the Super Bowl, he's lame. Next year he'd be a lame duck. Have to give him an extension, right? He started out the season as basically being called a clown on TV by certain people, which, as you know, I was against that. I said, let's not do the name calling. I hate the name calling. Let's analyze, and do the analytics, but let's not name call. But he has righted the ship there, no question about it. But I like O'Connell and what the Vikings have done. Again, I circled that in a big fat red, the Vikings on the road to beat the Seahawks. I think they have the equation offensively and defensively to beat the Seahawks, even though it's a gotta-have-it game for the Seahawks. I like the Vikings there.
Well, first of all, you circled the Chiefs and wrote Chiefs in red. Don't you coordinate the colors? Wouldn't you use purple to do that with the Vikings rather than red?
You know, I was just with my granddaughter's brother, and all my purple crayons went to them. You know?
by the way,
you know why they did that? Because we watched that movie Harold and the Purple Crayon, and so I went out and got a lot of purple crayons and markers, and I didn't leave the house with that.
That's a fantastic answer. Yeah. Wow, I got to tell you, I'm with you, and this would have been my biggest bet of the entire year, Sal Pal. If Geno was injured and not playing in that game, Sam Howell, can you imagine what that would look like against Minnesota's defense?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. How about that? How about that Bills performance last week against the Lions? I realize the Lions were banged up.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. There's three major things going on right now in the NFL. I call it the ankle, the freak, and the friendship. The ankle is Mahomes. The freak is Josh Allen, and the friendship between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. If they get that right, and this Eagles team can throw the ball, and they can run the ball, and they've got right now the number one defense in points allowed. Man, oh man.
Yeah.
I live here. Sometimes, I get accused of drinking the green Kool-Aid, but I'll tell you that fourth quarter performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers was amazing last week. I went back and watched that, and you could just see the Steelers players and their coaches had that look of shock, and their hands were on their hips like, man, who's doing this to us?
Yeah. Excellent. As always, my friend. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for the time today. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
There you go. The great Sal Paolantonio from ESPN on the Progressive Guest Line. Up next, we'll run down the best and worst teams in the NFL, NBA, and college hoops ATS. And with totals, 10 teams are covering spreads at an 80% clip or more in this sport.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. The VP of this great property, Mike Palm, in studio coming up in 15 minutes. He told me that he has a strong opinion on the overall landscape and with futures for the NHL. So I can't wait. We're going to go in fresh to that. Here, Paulie, the weekly look at the best and worst teams in the NFL. We'll go NBA, college basketball, little NHL with ATS numbers and with totals. The best team now in the NFL against the spread, the Denver Broncos. They are 11-3. The Pittsburgh Steelers, after not covering last week, 10-4. Minnesota, 9-4-1. And then a bunch of teams are 9-5. The Lions and the Bills, Tampa, Philadelphia, the Chargers, and the Cardinals. The worst teams in the NFL against the number. That's Tennessee with a bullet. They're 2-12 ATS. What a horrible season.
Yeah. Haven't given up on Will Levis, though, they said. Even though Rudolph will start. Okay.
Yeah, we need to see more of him.
Sure.
The Giants are 4-10, as are the Browns. What do you think of them now moving on from Winston to DTR in the next game?
Yeah.
I hate it because I can't bet Judy props now, and kills me with fantasy, too.
That's true. Yeah.
Cowboys, Dolphins, Niners, Jets, 5-9 ATS. The best teams in the NFL to the over. Baltimore, 11-3. Cincinnati and Carolina, 10-4. I still submit Carolina under the radar. But since he's going over by 9.5 points per game, and then the Bills, Pats, Commanders, Cowboys, and Buccaneers are 9-5 to the over this year. The best teams to the under, Houston, makes sense, right? Elite defense, offense, they don't know what the hell's going on. They are 10-4 under. Then you have the Giants, Eagles, Vikings, Bears, Falcons, Chargers, all at 9-5 to the under. The best teams in the NBA, ATS. Cleveland's 19-8. What do you think about tonight's no games on the schedule?
It's been a funky schedule for the last couple of weeks, I know. Yeah, I do like the Cleveland, the next game. Now they catch Milwaukee at home.
Yeah, good point.
It's a good spot for Cleveland.
Toronto 18-8-1. Grizzlies 18-9. I'd say that's under the radar. Clippers are 17-10. How about Harden's last game?
34 in the first half. What a performance. They dropped like a 145 or something on Utah.
Yeah. Thunder, Rockets, both 16-10 against the spread. The worst teams in the NBA against the spread. Washington, even with these inflated numbers, doesn't matter. 8-15-1 against the spread. Phoenix, 9-16. New Orleans, 10-17. The Kings and the Pacers, 10-16-1. The Celtics, 10-16 against the spread. The best teams in college basketball, ATS. Oregon State, 9-0.
Yeah.
Covering by 10.9 points per game. The Bonnies did it again last night. They killed Siena. They covered. They are 10-1 ATS. Elan plays tonight. They're 8-1 ATS. They're catching 3.5, I believe, last check. Then you have Houston Christian also 8-1. Some funky teams here. Florida A&M 7-1. Idaho State 6-1, covering by 8 points per game. Western Kentucky 6-1 3 pushes already in 10 games. Come on.
There's San Diego.
Yeah, 9-2.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee 9-2. Auburn's 8-2-1. So 10 teams in college basketball right now covering at 80% or more. The worst teams in college basketball: Texas Southern 1-9 ATS. Louisiana 1-9. Minnesota, your team, 1-8-2. St. Louis is 1-8. Alabama A&M is 1-8. Check that. They're 1-6. Vermont's 2-10. New Hampshire is 2-9 against the spread. And then you have best teams to the over. Man, there are some. This is a long list right here. North Florida is 10-0 to the over, going over on average by 14.3 points per game. How about that? Akron, 7-0 to the over. South Dakota is 9-1, going over on average by 14 points per game. Indiana State, 8-1. Manhattan, William and Mary, Northern Arizona, Tennessee State are all 7-1. Gardner Webb and Wisconsin are 10-2 to the over. And the best teams to the under in college basketball: Wagner, 7-0, staying under by 16 points per game. Pretty good. Kansas, 9-1 to the under. Austin P, 8-1 on average, going under by 12.4 points per game. Oakland, 7-1 under, staying under by 11.1 points per game. Xavier and Ryder are 9-2 to the under. Youngstown State and Pacific are 8-2 to the under in college basketball.
All right. Let's do that hockey. ROI, Washington, 10 units. Winnipeg, 925. Vegas, 845. Minnesota, 685. $100 bet every team. That's what you're up with the units. Worst ROI, you're down 19 units on Nashville. Oh, boy. Islanders near the bottom, 17 and change. Mm-hmm. Buffalo's down 11 units. They've lost 11 in a row. Best over teams, Columbus 21-10-1. Colorado 19-13. Best under teams, Nashville 21-10-2. Anaheim 18-9-2. Los Angeles 18-9-3. Thanks to Jonathan Davis. Thanks to Ian Duncan and Chris Otto at PSU Auto at Ian Dunks on X. First 10. Go in the first 10. Blackhawks 7 in a row at home. Tampa 6 in a row at home. On the road, Florida 7-1. Pittsburgh 6-1 run. Winnipeg 12-2. Overall, Carolina 22-6. Colorado 18-6. Rangers 22-8. It's all goal in the first 10. And Chris does first period stuff as well. That's up there. Excellent. Mm-hmm. There you go.
I was talking earlier. We're getting a lot of responses on email and on X today about the various topics we brought up so far. I said last hour that I would much rather go to an AFC or NFC title game than the Super Bowl because, again, you're playing at a home stadium. The atmospheres are going to be just completely phenomenal. This is one from Brian in Worcester, Mass. He's prefaced this by saying that he's never been to a Super Bowl, but he's from New England. He's been to 5 different AFC title games. The atmosphere and electricity of the tailgate, it's absolutely amazing. Everybody's completely jacked up. I mean, that comes across on TV when you watch it. And again, it's the journey more than a destination, in my opinion, for something like that. Also, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Brian said he sold his 86 Fleer Jordan for $90, needed the money for driving school.
God.
It was worth $120 at the time.
And all the people that just would throw them in a corner also put the baseball cards in their bikes and everything else, what they used to do.
That was big.
Growing up as kids, and a guy sold Tom Brady card before the comeback against Atlanta, too. So it quadrupled in value after the comeback, yes.
That was popular when we were growing up because we liked the way it sounded in our spokes.
Yes.
Having no idea that these cards might actually lead us to, I don't know, early retirement at some point. I'm joking around, but these cards, obviously, who could foresee it then? Tom
Pelissero, NFL Network insider, and other executives vote on the 2024 season awards in the NFL. Now, these are executives, but there's a lot of surprises. Defensive Player of the Year, T.J. Watt, in a runaway.
Yeah, I don't think T.J. Watt is going to win in a runaway.
Really?
No.
Yeah. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Daniels, we know. Bowers was second. Not a lot of love for Bo Nix. No love for anyone Denver Broncos.
Now,
Sean Payton got nothing for Coach of the Year, and Bowers is well ahead of Nix.
Okay, so again, this is with GMs, yeah?
Yeah.
Executives. They don't have a vote. So that immediately puts my antenna up and says that a lot of people in the league don't like Sean Payton.
Okay, yes. Coach of the Year, landslide, Kevin O'Connell. Received 16.5 votes, 13.5 more than any other candidate. Tomlin finished second with 3. Other coaches receiving votes included Campbell 2, Reed 2, McVay 1.5, McDermott 1.
Wow. KOC was plus 450 a week ago. He's as high as minus 190. I looked around during one of the breaks today.
I think the whole Campbell thing now has been mispriced. But to your point now, if they can still do this with all the injuries, because again, they should have gone to the Super Bowl last year. Everyone expected them to be the team to beat in the NFC. Why were you getting this much love? Why were you the favorite?
Oh.
Everyone thought the Vikings were going to be it was Detroit, Green Bay, then Minnesota. Then Chicago, then Minnesota with the pecking order. The Vikings were supposed to win 5-6 games.
I can't even find KOC at even money anywhere now.
Yeah, right. So that's in a landslide, O'Connell. I think that one's big. Pay attention to that. His early poll of executives from 27 teams on all the major awards.
By the way, severe movement at one book on Jaden Daniels. I think he's up to like minus 4,500.
Oh, God.
Other books are still like sitting around minus 1,000 or 1,200. But I agree with that book that's moved it to 4,500. He's winning that award.
Yep. I'm with you. Tomorrow, the last day, Jan Sanity. It closes before we're on the air. Don't miss the college football playoffs and get in on the action with the road to Jan Sanity. You can win $5,000 and it's free to enter. Pick the games against the spread every round, and the contestant with the most points after the title game wins $5,000. Head over to vsin.com/jansanity for the rules and register. Don't wait. Tomorrow's the last day. vsin.com/jansanity. Do it now. And the last time we did a contest, we found a host in 2017. Picks due 30 minutes before kickoff of the first game of each round. Good luck.
Up next, the VP of Circa Resort and Casino, Mike Palm, joins the program. He has a strong look at NHL futures that he wants to share. That's coming up on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Thanks for checking in. Good time here. As the VP of Circa Resort and Casino, the Golden Gate and the D here in downtown Las Vegas, Mike Palm makes his weekly appearance here on the program. Good afternoon, Maestro. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Good afternoon, Mitch. Good afternoon, Paul. It's always great to join the two of you here in the program. Get a lot of folks reaching out when I did a couple shows for Michael Lombardi at the end of last week about Mitch and Paul. We miss Mitch and Paul. Say hello to Mitch and Paul from some of the loyal morning viewers.
Well, hello back to them. I want to ask you about this. Paulie and I each walked into the D, not that far from Circa, on Fremont Street. Been here now for a long, long time. Last night, I was shocked because I did not expect to see what was going on inside. The place is getting gutted. Down below, you're ripping the carpet out. No machines, no tables. The mega bar, or the long bar actually, was shut off. Nobody was allowed to sit down there and play. Can you give us some background on this, and how much does a casino stand to lose when you have to shut it down like this?
Well, we replaced the carpet, did some refreshing light fixtures in that, and then we closed the bar to do a deep cleaning, which you really need to do every year for the bars. The carpet projects happen every 2 to 4 years, depending on how much wear the carpet gets. Obviously, that pathway there, a golden road, as you call it, a long bar in between the pits, and that gets a lot of use. So it's all about the timing of it because you want to close those areas, those revenue centers down on the slowest times of the year. And that week between the full week between rodeo ending and then Christmas is going to be the next week, that 10 days or whatever it ends up being is by far the slowest period of the year in Las Vegas, at least for us, at least for downtown, including any of the summer months or summer weeks you want to talk about, and the doldrums of the summer in July and August. Yeah, it's just the worst time. So you minimize the revenue that you offset. But the really funny thing was, our slots at the D yesterday were down right around 10%.
That's it?
So it migrated. The play migrated to other machines, obviously. Think about the best slot section at the D is that area 2, which is between where you come down the steps in front of the Players Club and the first pit. That area where all the Buffalo are in that.
Yep.
That's our best win per unit of any section of the casino. That obviously was out as well yesterday. But upstairs was packed. People migrated to in front of the front desk. So we were surprised at how little drop-off there really was.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. Well, good to hear. Can you even do the math on how many drinks are spilled on that carpet on an annual basis?
Oh, no, I can't.
Oh, no.
Nor would I want to.
How about a day?
Or
a dozen a day?
Well, I think that might be a little high.
Okay.
But when you think about how many drinks are spilled on tables, right? And when you guys play table games, how many people knock over drinks on tables?
How often are we talking here?
Well, then you refelt them, right? When the table gets, you sop it up, but then that's why you keep refelting the table.
Sure.
And every time you put the new felt on, that's $300.
Is that right?
Those things add up.
Shauna did it a month ago. Just
all over the place.
Yeah, terrible.
It happens.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
That's why at the dice game, keep your drinks below the rail, right? And stop the whole thing.
Well, you wonder how many times that someone runs into the cocktail waitress, too. And you get that, the great Carrie Packer story. Your good friend, Steve Sear. But it goes back to when the Carrie Packer, the Australian media mogul, knocked over the girls' drinks. And, can I get your phone number? I feel terrible. She goes, yeah, what? It paid off her mortgage.
Yeah,
the next
took care of the house. Pretty good.
Paid off everything. I felt so bad.
Do you think she saw that one coming?
Yeah. No kidding. What are you thinking? What does this freak want? What? Some old man wants he feels terrible. He paid off the mortgage the next day. Bumped into her. Oh,
and we thought the boat bed was a big deal.
That's right. Where is Evan? Where is he?
MIA, poor guy. Nobody can find him.
Huh? He's hanging out with Nigel. We can't see him. We met him at Foxwoods. It's been like 3 years.
Yeah.
You told me today, and we're going in fresh to this, that I think you have a strong opinion on the overall landscape of the NHL with some futures here.
Well, let's just start off with a couple teams you could just fade every night. This Buffalo. Lindy Ruff's back, and they can't win a game. They were favored on the road off 9 straight losses in Montreal last night, got run out. Gave up the first 8 shots and gave up 6 goals in 2 periods. Buffalo, something's got to change there. They're not going to blame Ruff, right? He was the last guy to have success there and take him to the playoffs. And how about the Rangers? You trade your captain? Laviolette, how long can he last? They got shut out in Nashville last night. These two teams are definite fates. I just can't overstate how important this goalies trades are for Colorado. If you want an idea of how bad Alexander Georgiev has fallen to, watch the last 10 minutes of that game in Sacramento last night. How the San Jose, how the Kings yacked off that 3-2 lead to Winnipeg. How bad Georgiev was. It's a huge upgrade to go to Mackenzie Blackwood. Huge, and they upgrade the second spot too, making the trade with Nashville and getting Wedgwood. You can still find Colorado at plus 750 to win the Central. Just to win the Central.
Just their own division.
They're 12-1 everywhere to win the Cup. How about take a shot at the Central? Now they're 4th, right? And, you say they're 9 points behind the Wild. The Wild have all kinds of goaltending issues. The Jets have totally flattened out and come back to earth. And to me, maybe the Stars win the division, but Ottinger is what we've liked to coin in baseball now, fake ace. He's a fake ace. He's great in Columbus on a Tuesday night. Put him up against a good team. He is a fake ace, and you saw that against Edmonton last year. The Stars will never win with Ottinger. They're not going to win a cup.
Very strong. Okay.
So they might win the division, but I took a shot at Colorado on plus 750 and plus 1250 to win the cup. But I like that division bet a lot.
That's very good. You know who else has been getting great goaltending this year is Toronto.
But now Stolars is out.
He's out.
Stolars is hurt.
6 weeks.
So
unbelievable.
Right?
You believe this?
They've been on.
They're second in goals allowed to the Kings, who are doing it all without Doughty.
You'd be proud of me. I have a bet tonight in the NHL.
You do.
And it involves the last 2 teams we just talked about, Toronto and Dallas. I bet under 6 minus 120 because of the goaltending. And thanks to viewer Jared, who put me on this like 2 weeks ago. They were 13-3 currently, recently, I should say, on a 13-3 under run Toronto because of their incredible goaltending. right? That has changed a little bit in the last 2 weeks or so. But against the Stars tonight, and most books have it like 5.5. I found a six out there under 20 cents.
I've been using them in first periods because they're still the plus 115, plus 120. And they've been getting the outstanding goaltending, as you said. Since the market's not catching up with the total price just yet. Yep. And Wool's been decent, too, as the backup. You think I'll be happy for you that you made a bet? How about I got an NBA bet tomorrow?
No, come on.
I did it. It's just a scheduling spot. But, I mean, off this,
fake cup?
Cavs? How about just Francesa? I love to listen to Francesa on the cup. But anyhow,
I want to listen to Francesa.
Off the really tough loss last night, the top team in the league, OKC, now has to go to Orlando against a team that's been resting for 5 days, and they're laying 6.5. I took 6.5 with the Magic.
Oh, that's a good
I think
angle.
it's a tough spot for OKC.
Yeah, Paul likes the other side, too.
I don't like
the fade Milwaukee.
The
fade Milwaukee.
Cleveland. Not bad.
Yep.
Not bad. So Nick Bogdanovich on every Monday, Hall of Famer and trader here at Circa. But thanks to all the emails and tweets, by the way. The game's underway. Boca, weather's fine. How about this perilous trade with the movement? And this is just nuts, right? How about you always got to be ready as a bookmaker. And what in, out. And look what happened last night.
I mean, it's so hard. And the more you expand the playoff, the more you're going to devalue the bowl games. You're going to have to do something in order to encourage or incentivize kids to play in these bowl games. And maybe it's like the NBA Cup, but obviously be more relevant if every player on the winning team got X amount of dollars to encourage these kids to play. But it's really hard to book, and then you just set yourself up for so many different middles.
Well, how was that landing spot last night?
Yeah, well, just terrific. I mean,
it had to be terrible, right?
It was awful. It was completely awful. But I mean, it should have always been fun. We'll get into that, and you can't be serious, though.
Okay.
I mean, the hijinks in the last 2 minutes of that game were ludicrous. The decision making.
I could not believe what I was watching.
The side of the ball.
Guys, they're trying to lose? Is that what I'm watching right now?
Let's run out of bounds on this first bounce.
You're right, though. These, like the fringe bowl games anyway, have always been a little, okay, if you don't have a bet on it, what does it really mean?
There's 10 people at this game.
Oh, yeah, right. This is
there are.
This is a Tuesday game in like the Northeast Conference in March, right? On day one of their conference tournament in college basketball.
How was that game so late last night?
That was that went to 10 o'clock our time.
Game.
But that's so they and by the way, Mike, I got news for you. They're going to go to 14 and probably 16 teams sooner than you think.
I think they'll get to 16 within 3 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I hope not.
I'm very interested, and I don't know if Derek talked about this yesterday, but I'm very interested to look at the crowds on Saturday, because Notre Dame will be filled Friday night, right? But is Penn State going to find 100,000 people with school out for that game against SMU?
Pretty big stadium.
I mean, this could look very bad. They might have to do some TV work here to cover up what these fields the stadiums are going to look like. Because I don't know that there's going to be a sellout on Saturday in those 3 games.
You imagine that? What if they have to go the old Oakland Coliseum route, Mount Davis, right?
Right.
And
lock,
tarp it off.
Yep.
Sorry, nobody's allowed up here because we haven't sold enough tickets.
Yeah. Hey. We'll see, but I mean, if that happens, maybe that expedites them moving to neutral sites in the first round.
That's what the King of the North said months ago. Take your betting to the next level by playing the ponies on First Bet. From Del Mar and Gulfstream, the Derby and Preakness, First Bet has you covered. Sign up firstbet.com, promo code VEASAN200. Claim a 20% rebate for your first 60 days up to $200. Head to firstbet.com today.
All right, Wednesdays with the Maestros here on Follow the Money. It's VEASAN, the sports betting network. So that's good. So you can find that everywhere. Colorado plus 750 to win their division.
735 I saw. 750.
Okay. More with the Maestro coming up next, including You Cannot Be Serious. Can't wait to see who made the list this week.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Action-packed 3-hour program today as we continue with the Maestro, Mike Palm, VP of Circa Resort and Casino. Here you go. It's time now for You Cannot Be Serious.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
All right, here we go. A lot of quick hitters this week. Let's start in New Orleans, where the Commanders at the Saints was very important in the survivor pool this week, and Dan Quinn and the Commanders did everything they could to keep the Saints in the game, and they got a little bit of help from the referees. all those picks came down to a 2-point conversion. But how about the third to last play of the game? Where where the Saints get stopped at the 2-yard line. The play had 9 seconds to start. And the side judge comes in and stops the clock on a live ball play. Allows them to get up, snap the ball, spike it, and then get the touchdown and go for 2. Well, they pressed Sean Hockley. The pool reporters went right after him. In the interview after the game, he said, well, it's just a matter of the covering official mistakenly stopped the clock. When they said, how does that happen? He said, well, I've explained to you. He mistakenly stopped the clock. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. How does that happen? Sean Hockley.
You cannot be serious.
I thought the Colts looked great in the first half in Denver. They moved the ball at absolute will. They're up 13-7. There goes the star running back, round end, 41 yards for the touchdown to go up 20-7. Oh no, the too cool for school kid doesn't want to carry the ball past the goal line. Your franchise star, Jonathan Taylor.
You cannot be serious.
Let's go to the disgrace of the week, which I call the Raiders versus Falcons. One of the most unwatchable games I've ever seen in my lifetime. I want to start out. Let's fast forward all the way down to under 3 minutes to go in the game. And the Falcons are facing 3rd and 9 with 2:44 left on the clock. They decide to let Cousins attempt his 16th pass of the game. He curls up in the pocket and throws an incomplete pass. I don't like this official. I've never liked this official, Sean Smith. I think he's one of the worst referees. I cannot believe he calls roughing the passer on that play. He didn't strike him with any force in the head. Where's he supposed to put his hands after he tipped the pass? I mean, that's a ludicrous call. And the umpire came over and talked to him for a second, but the referee threw the flag. Horrendous call. They get the ball back with 2:30 to go if he doesn't make that call. So I had the under. I mean, it's a horrible call. It helps me, but it's inexcusable. Now let's get to the real tragedy here. They get the ball down to the 2-minute warning. The Raiders have no timeouts left. There's no way on God's green earth they're going to let Cousins throw the ball on 3rd and 6, is there? They haven't let him throw the ball all game.
Terrible.
They haven't let him. Here's the key fact. In the 2-minute drill, before, when the Raiders scored their only touchdown, it took Ridder 3 minutes to get down the field with a dink and dunk. If you run the ball, the worst thing that can happen is the Raiders get it back with 1:10 and no timeout. They let Cousins throw a pass. He's got no shot the last pass of his NFL career. That was it, Kirk Cousins. You're done. Raheem Morris.
You cannot be serious.
All right, let's go to this Folgers Bowl or whatever it was last night. The last 2 minutes of the game. They're inside. Memphis up 5, the worst number in the world. But they're inside the 2-minute warning, and Marco Anderson breaks off a 19-yard run and goes out of bounds. He goes out of bounds. They only got 2 timeouts left. They'd have had the clock under 20 seconds with 3 knees. Oh, but no, you give them an extra timeout. And now you face 4th and 3 from the 32. Your kicker has never made one longer than 43 yards. I thought obviously we're going to go for it. Why punt? I mean, you're going to have a 12. You just run the ball. You're a top offense in the country. What do? They try to kick the field goal. They give West Virginia life. Then Green throws the interception. Does the guy go down? No, he's going to try to return it. He did not try to slide because he wanted to end the clock. There was a guy coming right at him. So as he starts to slide, they knock it out. Of course, his knee's nowhere to. They review it. Oh no, the attempt. Oh. It's all about intent. Isn't it about an intent now? He meant to slide, no fumble. He meant to score a touchdown, no fumble. What a weird and wacky ending. Scooter's Coffee Bowl.
You cannot be serious.
I don't know if you guys caught this. I don't know if you guys caught this. But how about Angels manager Ron Washington? Did you see his statements this week? He may be alone in the 7 billion people in the world or whatever it is. He is absolutely in favor of abolishing the pitch clock. He said it's the worst thing in baseball, and the pitcher should have all the time they want to throw a pitch. Is it any wonder the Angels will never, ever, ever, ever win anything? Ron Washington!
You cannot be serious!
Unbelievable. How about the crosstown shootout Saturday between Xavier and Cincinnati? First of all, Bearcat and Musketeer fans were irate that this game wasn't on network TV. It was on ESPN Plus. And imagine their dismay when they found out that White Sox play-by-play guy John Schriffen would be calling the game. Can you imagine that beat? Are you guys aware of the story?
I know what
called
happened.
Ben Wilson, who shares an agent with this guy. He called Oscar Robertson 3 separate times during the first half when referring to the Cincinnati and NBA legend, talking about how the Cincinnati students had to stop the Xavier students from putting a Musketeer jersey on Oscar Robertson's statue outside the stadium.
I worked with a guy who did the same thing.
This guy calls the manager in baseball the head coach, and then won't speak to any member of the media that criticizes him.
Wow.
John Schriffen.
You cannot be serious.
Do I have this right? The Yankees traded for Cody Bellinger, whose wife, Chase Carter, dated Giancarlo Stanton for 2 years?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
I don't know. I think they kind of had that problem in the Seattle locker room a few years back with Golden Tate. Brian Cashman!
You cannot be serious.
All right.
How do you think that flies?
I don't think it can fly.
It's your dad. It goes back to Ryan Sandberg and Rafael Palmeiro. Boy.
It's going to cause major problems. They could have dumped his salary somewhere else, but I don't know what the Yankees are doing. Okay, how about our buddy Doug Gottlieb? How about what point is he trying to make? He says we got to schedule, but they've lost 7 games in a row, and he's worried about they're not scheduling tough enough. It's cold out. That's whole quote. It's cold out. It's snowing, and we got to play nobody you. What do we learn from beating a team by 20? Well, of course, we all know. UW Green Bay lost to Michigan Tech for the 8th loss in a row. And meanwhile, he's on Twitter hours before the game criticizing Schefter, talking about plays that happened in college basketball 10 years ago. Bad experiment for Green Bay. Doug Gottlieb.
You cannot be serious.
I want to talk about the owner of the Washington Mystics. Her name is Sheila Johnson. I don't know if you ever heard of her. I hadn't before her comments.
I did after this.
She's a very famous person, though. You know, she co-founded BET. I didn't know that. Nope. I did a little research, but wildly successful businesswoman, okay, who was upset that Time Magazine, who for what they've been doing this 6 or 7 years, they name an Athlete of the Year. Sports Illustrated's been doing it for 70 years, but Time Magazine named Caitlin Clark their Athlete of the Year. As a WNBA owner, this really upset Sheila Johnson, who said it's very unfair to put this suddenly white face in the league on the cover and call her the Athlete of the Year when the league was built on all the hard work of all the black players. The whole league should have been the Athletes of the Year or the League of the Year. I just want to point out this statistic since all the athletes are the same. The Washington Mystics played 20 home games last year, 20. 2 against the Indiana Fever. So the Indiana Fever were 10% of their home schedule and 41% of their home attendance because both times she moved the games to the Cap Center and sold it out. The second time, 21,000, the largest WNBA crowd of all time. But they all deserve equal value. And finally, season win totals are out in baseball. Did you see the White Sox season win total?
I did.
Did you see it?
49.5.
Jerry Reinsdorf!
You cannot be serious.
That's a big
What number do you need to bet over?
Come on. What number do I need to bet over?
Yeah.
41.5.
All right. And it's amazing how the WNBA cannot get out of their own way with this. It's going on 9 months, and they have screwed this up from day one.
They won't embrace her.
They won't.
They don't get it's like she's made it.
She's the golden goose here.
Yes, right.
Right? It's great for everybody. And they just want to keep tearing her down.
Yep.
I don't understand her white privilege comments, though, either. Not to get too political, though. But what white privilege? Growing up in Des Moines, Iowa, and going to Dowling Catholic and going to Iowa, that had nothing to do with where she got herself in her career. I do want to acknowledge the death of Dr. Jim Tunney. Brent Musburger once asked me years ago when we were first on this network, what was my favorite NFL game of all time? And it was the game The Catch. And he said, why is The Catch your favorite game? I said, because I thought it was a seed change game in the NFC. It spelled the start of the end of the Cowboys dynasty. But the game contained my favorite coach of all time, Tom Landry, my favorite quarterback of all time, Joe Montana, and my favorite referee of all time, Dr. Jim Tunney. Dr. Jim Tunney, who was a principal in Los Angeles High School for 7 years and a vice principal for another 12, the dean of the NFL officials, worked 3 Super Bowls and 10 championship games, and was the first referee ever on the All-Madden team, passed away at the age of 92 last week. We all know Dr. Jim Tunney with this and the holding, but he was the best, and he's gone.
So is Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. Had it delivered to the house a couple of weeks ago. Everyone loves it. Dynamite, the burgers, the desserts, and the steaks. Save 50% off site-wide, limited time, omahasteaks.com. Our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code MONEY. That's 50% off omahasteaks.com. Extra $30 off with promo code MONEY. It's the best. Minimum purchase may apply. omahasteaks.com.
Strong as always, Maestro.
I'll be with you Christmas Eve. I'll be with Paul next Friday and the following Monday.
Yeah. 3 hours next Tuesday.
On
with
Christmas
a Christmas
Eve.
message. There you go. Managing editor of VSiN.com, Adam Burke, on the program next. His best bets in college football coming up.